Larry lied about the lobster. Larry lied about the lobster.
Excuse me. Winston.
Winnie!
You're ruining my shit, man.
I mean, listen, there's nothing better in the back of a Chupacabra episode than a dog barking. I'm going to be honest with you. It fits.
All right, it's you say and Andrew. We're doing this thing.
Hell yeah.
We're learning.
What's the name of the show?
It's called out. I almost forgot for a second.
You were like, I put you on blast.
I'm not crazy. Am I crazy?
I'm not crazy. That was a good clip right there.
Welcome to the I'm Not Crazy podcast with Andrew Vanor. And you say Fernari.
Fernari.
And I'm going to learn, we are going to learn about the Chupacabra.
El Chupacabra.
El Chupacabra today.
So today,
I'm gonna
we
do
are
this
going over
accent
something.
all day.
No, that's bad. We shouldn't do accents.
I'm ethnically ambiguous. I can do whatever I want.
That's fair. I'm not. So there are certain words that I'm going to attempt just because, I'm not going to try to butcher them totally. But there's a lot of Spanish words.
You know how we have Sheedy to fill in for rap songs?
Yeah,
I got you for the accent.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Wow. So
we're getting wild.
Wow, episode 3 getting canceled. Oh. So squirming in my chair. So so I'm very excited about this. I've been talking about it all day. Been talking about it for years, frankly. I love the Chupacabra. Even before this, I love the Chupacabra. I still think it's great. It's a great story.
The only thing I know about the Chupacabra is there's a magic card called Ravenous Chupacabra. And it is a dog. And when it comes onto the battlefield, it kills something.
Which is very interesting because...
Please tell me you know that. There's no way you know that.
What?
The Ravenous Chupacabra.
Of course I know that. Yeah. Wow. I am a wealth of knowledge. My brain contains nothing I need and everything I don't.
That's awesome.
Does that make sense?
All right, yeah. What color is the Ravenous Chupacabra?
I'm going to assume red.
Nope.
Wow, black?
Black.
Yeah, wow.
Come on, it's evil.
Yeah, that's fair. I just assumed it seems fast.
Yeah.
Chupacabras are
By the way,
quick.
that is the color of
that
card,
was, if you don't know what we're talking about, that would sound nuts.
Color
we're
of the
talking
card?
about, there's also blue, there's also
green,
green, and there's also white. Yeah.
Not
races.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, okay. So
it's getting dicey early.
So the Chupacabra. Okay. So the Chupacabra is one of my favorite cryptids. Same thing. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. But unlike the Mothman, right, who has been seen in other places, but primarily happened in one place.
Callback? Episode 3?
Oh, fuck yeah. You know it, boy. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. Also, before we even start, hold on a second. Let me take this back a second, okay? I know last episode I said I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to do it at the end. And I did it at the end, and you know what happened? We got 2 reviews. I love that.
Yeah.
We got ratings, and we got written reviews. I love that. So here's what I'm going to say right up front in this episode.
Yep.
Can you just write a fucking review?
Yeah.
And make sure it's good.
Be honest.
Be honest.
As long as it's a good
review.
As
long as it's good. If you want to honestly write a bad one, the email address will be in the liner notes. Just send it there. Don't even worry about posting it.
Right.
You don't need to tell anyone else how you feel. Why spread the negative energy? Mm-hmm. Let's give us positive energy here.
If you got nothing
and I'm
nice
totally
to say.
Joking. Wink, wink. But I just, all jokes aside, it helps tremendously if you rate and review the podcast. Rate it truthfully, whatever you feel, and review it however you feel. 5 stars. But it's 5 stars. And it's just, very important. Helps a lot. Helps a ton. And, I got to tell you, I did this episode over the course of like 3 or 4 days. One of those days, I was doing it for like 12 hours. I want to be able to do it full time. So fucking help me with that, please. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about El Chupacabra. Not bad.
That was pretty good.
I like the lightning in the beginning. That was good. Yeah.
I'm glad you got that it was lightning.
Bro. It's werewolf.
All right.
So, On a dark night in September 1995, I'm saying it like Monster Quest. Puerto Rican native Madelyne Tolentino saw a creature that would quickly become a worldwide phenomenon. Rife with confusion and speculation, the origins of the Chupacabra are dubious at best. Stemming from political unrest and distrust of the U.S. government, the story quickly spread and became a catch-all for animal mutilations all across South America, parts of the Caribbean, and the United States. This is the story of the Chupacabra. I feel like that was pretty good. And also Central America. I forgot to put that there, too. Central America.
You said Chupacabra dubious at best. It's at most.
At most.
You said at best.
Did I?
Yeah, I think...
I'll do it again.
I think you're a little dyslexic.
I don't think I am.
Bro,
I think I've been...
the last one, you did that like 7 times.
Did I?
The last word of the sentence, you would make it up.
I'm going to be honest with you. This is what happens, right? I read the sentence and I get excited and then I just look up and I just fill it in my head. This is why I write things down, because if I didn't, this is what happens. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so usually this is the part of the episode where we would go right into the description of the creature in its most popular form, but the descriptions often varied widely and are fairly recent, only gaining attention in the mid to late 90s. There were claims that there were chupacabras seen all the way back until the 70s in Puerto Rico, but those things didn't really come up until this came up. So it was never named the Chupacabra. It was named the Chupacabra in like 96, I think. So it was 96. I'm just saying I think because I just feel weird that I know it offhand. But
it was 96. All word of mouth until this shit.
It was all word of mouth until this, but there was no name for it. So they just said there's something killing livestock, right?
The monster.
Exactly. Some witnesses claim that it's a 3 to 4 foot tall bipedal creature with glowing beady red eyes and spines running down its back, which jumps through treetops. While others claim it's a larger dog-type creature with huge red eyes and bat-like skin. Ew. The only characteristic that's somewhat pinned down is the vampiric nature of the beast. Chupacabra literally translates to goat sucker. So this being...
Sorry.
No, it's fine. This being the only consistency makes a lot of sense. I was really excited to say goat sucker because it's just a funny sentence. You know?
Such a weird phrase.
Yeah, goat sucker.
Goat sucker.
You know? Say it.
Goat sucker.
There it is. The creature would specifically attack goats, sheep, cows, dogs, cats, and any other farm animals without discrimination. It would then leave the corpse fully drained of blood, the scientific term being desanguination.
Oh, I just learned something.
I also learned something when I looked that up. Sometimes with surgical precision, and other times butchering the animal in the process. And that's a very important thing that we will get into afterward. This story is full of... this person said this person said this, and they are basically talking about 2 different things. Like that is, you'll see it as we go.
But it's the same
event.
It's
supposed to be the same creature.
Right.
But it just, there were so many different descriptions for this thing, and there are so many different stories, and the only thing that is consistent is that it is a vampire.
Just like Mothman, episode 1.
No.
No, I'm saying there were different descriptions.
I refuse. There's 2. There's bird, moth. That's it. This one, there's 17.
Oh, all right.
There's a guy
I
that
didn't
found.
know that.
Oh, wait, I'm not even going to get into that. I'm upset with you.
All right.
Descriptions of the Chupacabra were so widely varied, it's hard to nail down exactly what it looked like. Some even claim that the thing would speak Spanish, with one witness claiming the beast had gotten into their home. She claims that it ran in. She more or less cornered it, and then started berating it and called it a bendejo. And then a bendejo, I'm pretty sure, which is bandit. And then I think,
this
like
better.
Thief. And then as she was berating it, it covered its face with its wings and started crying, which is fucking hilarious.
Sticks and stones.
And it literally, like, what she was saying was like, you're a sick excuse for a monster, bendejo.
It's a blood-sucking creature.
Yes.
But it's super sensitive.
Yes.
To
with its
name calling.
Yeah, no, don't call it a bandit.
Doubt
Woo!
it. That's what bendejo means, is bandit?
I'm 95% sure. Hold on.
We got Google.
Bendejo. Asshole or idiot. I was wrong.
I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not bandit.
I really thought it was bandit. Is that bad?
It's okay. I'm here.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Okay. I love Puerto Rican people. I really do. So now we will get into the origin of the creature. And by that I mean like the very first, like the patient zero of the whole thing, you know? What's the term for that? There's a word for it. Not patient zero.
The origin.
The origin.
The origin.
The origin. As stated in the intro, Madelyne Tolentino is credited with the first major sighting of the Chupacabra. Coming off the heels of a month-long wave of livestock mutilations, Tolentino was the first to see the creature with detail. She described the beast as being about 4 foot tall, with thin arms and legs, having dark eyes on the side of its head, with feathery spikes down its back. This became the base of the Chupacabra. This is the one that when you think of it, depending on when you were into the story, this is either you see this or you see a dog, right?
I see the dog.
Yeah, I always saw the dog too. This is not the dog. So this is like a bipedal thing.
Vampire bat.
More or less, yeah. It's more or less like a walking human bat thing.
Okay.
That also smells really bad. She said gave off an odor.
Right.
And would produce mysterious slime. But we'll get into the mysterious slime later. So this became the base of the Chupacabra. Although we will see others build onto this and then totally change it as we go, sightings of the creature were also very rare, with the aftermath usually being the thing that would constitute a Chupacabra encounter. So for a lot of what we're going to see, they didn't even see it. They just have the result, and they would figure, well, you know, this is A, B, and C. There's an animal on the ground, killed 10 of my sheep, and they're all missing they're all drained of their blood. It's the Chupacabra, you know. And as soon as someone in, you know, the same farming village or the same town that you're in says that, then when it happens to you, you assume it's the Chupacabra, and that's a lot of what happens here. As for the creature, where the creature came from, this is another point of contention. Some believed it to be an undiscovered animal, or an animal that we already know of, like a dog or a coyote that somehow was mutated or crossbred. A lot of people in Puerto Rico assumed that the U.S. government was at fault. That's a good assumption. They thought that a creature was let loose, explaining kind of some of the supernatural abilities of it. Like some people thought it was telepathic, and the original Chupacabra was more like an alien experiment than it was like a creature that was in the wild. Right. So that's why this story is so confusing.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of the dog.
Yeah, this is the original explanation of this. Some people did believe that it was religious, so they assumed that it was like Satan himself coming in a different form.
Obviously.
And my favorite, because of how ridiculous it is, it says that aliens dropped off the Chupacabra onto Puerto Rico to start the spread of AIDS to help thin out the population of the planet, which I assume this is tied to the Illuminati, because there are a million different conspiracy theories about the Illuminati trying to thin out the environment with disease and, you know, AIDS. Right. And
are we ever going to get the Illuminati? Nah.
I don't know if it's really... There's nothing really actually there. Yeah. You know, like, I don't know. It's like the Freemasons. Like, it's just the fucking fat people just get it together and they're just like, oh, yeah, I need to get away from my wife tonight. Like, that's the fucking
It's also
Freemasons.
So, like, it's just... It's not mainstream.
Real. It's just not real.
It's like, who cares now?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, if Jay-Z's in the Illuminati...
Who cares?
Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? But the one characteristic that we cannot overlook is the vampiric nature of the Chupacabra, being one of the only consistencies.
Isn't that wild? That
I think so.
The word wild. Vampire is a made-up word, and then they made a new word on top of vampire and said vampiric.
So like it's the other way around.
Like a descriptive word.
Oh no! You're 100% right. It's not the other way around. But it's really funny because we are going to get into that in mere seconds.
Oh shit!
To understand where these ideas came from, we have to dive into the history of vampires. Though the term vampire is fairly new to history, as you have said, being only about 300 years old, vampiric-type entities have shown up since ancient times. So in Greece, Rome, Egypt, and many other societies around the world, they all contain stories of vampiric creatures, mostly either being human that turned into an undead creature, or just kind of being an undead creature to start with, like a demon or something. Or, yeah, like just something that was once alive and now is evil, or was just always evil. They always believed that they would drain a person or animal of its either blood, energy, or other life-giving substance. So that would be like if, you know, I don't know an example right off the top of my head, but there were, you know, back in those times, they didn't understand science the way we did, so they didn't think that, you know, necessarily blood was your life-giving thing. They might have thought it was, you know, something that was given to you by a god or something like that, right? Right. So fast forward now to the 18th century, vampires became a phenomenon in Europe. They kind of just started blowing up, and it was led by ignorance and fear, similar to the infamous Salem witch trials. Many of the time believed vampires would spread illness and plague and then return to their grave to hide from the unsuspecting population. And
that's what I would do.
Yeah, and realistically, they were always suspicious of fresh corpses. So this is important because they were it being a fresh corpse kind of shows that some of the things they thought made it a vampire are just things that happen to a body while it's decomposing. So it was just absolute ignorance, right? This would then cause mass panic, thinking that there was a vampire around, causing bodies to be exhumed and to be staked through the heart, believing that this would either kill or totally incapacitate the vampires. And just like in any other point in history, so-called experts started to pop up to educate people on how to spot a vampire. There were a few things to look for on the corpse of a suspected vampire, and this is what I was talking about. Their nails and hair would continue to grow. They would appear to not decompose, and there would be fresh blood coming out of the mouth of the body, assuming that the blood is from the last victim. At the time, these things screamed vampire, but with modern understanding, this is all explainable. So hair and nails would continue to grow. Is just an illusion caused by the person's skin drying out and receding.
Right, makes sense.
A coffin being sealed at that time and buried, it would take months before the body would totally putrefy. Like, it wouldn't just
you gotta
disappear.
explain that word to me.
Putrefy?
Yeah.
That's when, like, the body just kind of becomes liquid and then just, like, starts to just, like, melt off of the bones. And then that's when you're just left with a skeleton.
Got you. So the opposite of petrify.
The opposite of Holy shit. I didn't even think. Look at you.
That's why I was like, I've never heard putrefy.
I love that you just said that, man. Honestly, I'm attracted to you. So...
Let's see, what's putrefy?
So it would take months to putrefy inside of a sealed coffin, and the bloat was caused by internal gas buildup from, like, just decaying the insides and stuff.
Right.
Is what would cause blood to be forced out of the mouth because it was decaying inside, and then it would come out of the mouth. So this shows that with science and understanding and medicine, we can now understand that vampires don't exist the way we thought they did then. So if a town was struck by a disease, they didn't understand why, they didn't understand germs, they didn't understand bacteria, and they just figured God wouldn't do this, so it's a vampire.
Right.
And that's where we are. And
they probably buried most of the people, but then the people they didn't bury, they were like, what the fuck is happening to this guy?
And when they would bury someone fresh, a lot of the times during this time, they would stake them going in.
Into the coffin?
Yeah, they would put them in the coffin, stake their heart immediately so that they couldn't turn into a vampire. It was seen as almost like respect for the family member because they wouldn't have to go through that either.
That's like some samurai shit.
It's wild.
That's like cutting your head off. So
it's like getting your ponytail thrown in the river.
No.
Like in that episode, that episode. The scene in Last Samurai where he's like, ah! As they're cutting it off in the rain. So dramatic. I love it.
By the way, a white guy is the last samurai in that movie.
He is. You know why? You know why?
Fucking Tom Cruise.
Because it's fucking Tom Cruise, man. He's probably the most...
I can't wait for that movie.
Man, he is just something, man.
All right.
Fun fact about Tom Cruise. Well, it's not about Tom Cruise.
He's a goat sucker.
So there is a story where Tom Cruise fucked a fish.
No. Oh, my. If you said goat.
Fucked the fish to death.
If you said goat, I would have
I just want to put that out there, right? Allegedly, Tom Cruise, during like a Scientology thing, requested a living fish, and fucked it to death.
What are we talking? A goldfish? A fucking red snapper? How big is this fish?
I'm gonna say a trout. You know, he seems like I don't know, he gives off kind of big dick energy, Tom Cruise. He's Tom Cruise. Yeah, he's Tom Cruise. You know? He's a little guy, so even if it's average, it's still bigger than most, you know? It's all about perspective.
So you fucked a fish and it died.
And he apparently. Yeah. But fun fact that I was going to say, that's not the fun fact. Even the fun fact. The fun fact is in American Psycho, right?
Your favorite movie.
Love this movie. Christian Bale was trying to figure out how to play Patrick Bateman and how to play a sociopath. So he watched interviews with Tom Cruise and said that the deadness behind his eyes is what he was going for in this movie. How crazy is that?
That's not true.
I swear to God. I promise you.
I believe you. That's fucking great.
Tom Cruise Inspired.
That's great.
Inspired American Psycho.
He was a sociopath.
Well, he didn't inspire. It was a book, but
even then.
Yeah,
I thought it was
Christian Bale's inspiration for American Psycho was Tom Cruise.
You can't believe everything you read on the internet. Guys.
It's literally the first 7 options here. The first 7 things are Tom Cruise was the Psycho.
I'm sorry.
Vampires have been around for absolutely forever. They became super, super prominent in the 18th century, which is for anybody who doesn't understand how that works, is from the year 1700 to the year 1799.
Oh.
And then that kind of caused panic enough for vampires to become a thing. So the same way that the Malus Maleficarum was written for witch hunters to find a witch.
The what?
The Malus Maleficarum. I'm like 95% sure that's what it's called.
That's a character in Harry Potter. I'm 100% sure that's a character.
It's not. It's Malus Maleficarum. I just looked it up. That is the book that was written on how to discover and more or less like bring out a witch.
No, that's a professor from Hogwarts.
Yeah, he just teaches you how to burn a witch at the stake. He scares everybody.
Yeah.
So vampires became very big then, and then people came out. They kind of faded in the distance a little bit, but culturally were very relevant. And then around the 1800s, I believe the late 1800s, when I think 1893 is when Dracula was written. It was published, and then that kind of reinvigorated the whole thing.
It's really that old?
It's very old.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a very old book. And that kind of reinvigorated the idea of the vampire, and then it was just always kind of there in the background from the 1700s. It was always a very prominent thing.
Right.
And vampires are extremely prominent in the Caribbean and Latin American countries. Because for hundreds of years, people would come in, they would rule these places, and then more or less force their culture and influence on them, bringing stories and folklore of vampires to those places. That's how things like that would spread back then.
I thought vampires were in Eastern Europe.
So that is the modern vampire that we understand.
Gotcha.
So the modern vampire, like Dracula, and just like the blah, like I'm here to suck your blood. So Dracula is the reason that we have that Transylvanian vampire idea.
Which was written in 1893.
Which was written in 1893, I believe. Now I gotta look
you don't gotta fact check me, bro.
I gotta fact check myself. Dracula.
This is a comedy podcast.
I want to be factual. It was published in 1897. I was fucking 4 years off. I was a high school diploma away. So they were very prominent in that area because, again, people would come in by force, they would rule them, and they would force them to take their culture on, right?
Right.
This causes the vampire of the olden times from Europe and just other influences to be passed from culture to culture, combining with local religious ideas, and then kind of cementing the vampire archetype into Latin American belief, which is very important. So the best example that I could give of this, right, in modern times would be the idea of the zombie, right? Like zombies have been an idea in certain cultures for a very long time, and the idea of a zombie coming back and doing what it does is like a very old idea, right? But zombies come from a very specific place in the world. It comes from the Caribbean for the most part, the Caribbean and parts of Africa. And the idea of the zombie kind of became a public thing, and like it came into the lexicon of public of the everyday person when zombie movies started being put out. Like before that, the idea of a zombie wasn't really a thing yet in America. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, before they started to get written about and media started to put them out, it was kind of just like this thing that another country believed. Like almost like if you look at a better example, way better example, would be like if you look at things that like you're Japanese, you've lived in Japan in parts of your life, right?
Yeah.
There are probably things that are believed there and entities that they believe in there that if you come to America, we have no idea. And if you told us, it would be weird to us.
Yeah, like we believe everything has a spirit. Like the tree has a spirit.
The paper towel roll?
Well,
it used to have a spirit. They murdered it and made it into a paper towel roll.
Yeah, till corporate took over.
Fucking trees, bro. Unbelievable.
But that's why they don't feel guilty for, I don't know, consuming things, because it's like you pay respects to that spirit.
I got
Everything is all cyclical.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a good example. Like until it comes to that country and it gets melded in with the culture, the first thing that you think of now, for example, right? If I was to then, go fishing tomorrow, right? Just because you told me that doesn't mean I'm going to believe it and doesn't mean I'm going to then implement it in my life.
Right.
So if something weird happens when I go fishing, I'm not going to automatically think like, oh, that was the fish's spirit.
Right.
You know? So because it's not ingrained in my culture.
Right.
So like for this to have happened with the Chupacabra and the idea of it being vampiric and sucking blood, that idea had to have been cemented in Latin America and in the Caribbean at some point in time.
I see.
And this is where that influence came from, right?
Got you.
So
all because
they're also
called him a pendejo.
All because she called him a pendejo. Also, it is a very important fact to know that European and U.S. powers also would impact them constantly and come in and be vampiric and take everything that they owned and take full advantage of the resources there, the people there, in certain places, just the more or less like lack of like infrastructure. They would just come in and they would say, oh, okay, let's put a bunch of factories here and take full advantage of those people, right?
Kind of like what we do right now.
Kind of like what we're still fucking doing to this day. Exactly. So this also kind of gives them the idea that something's going to come in and take something from them. It's like a very common idea, unfortunately, in those parts of the world because it's been happening forever. And to this point, it wasn't just killing animals, the Chupacabra now. It was also supposedly killing the income for farmers across the continent. So now if you combine that with the justified distrust of ruling governments, the existing folklore and religious beliefs, you get the Chupacabra, which is a beast made of social, political, and economic unrest. I have an example ready to go.
Yeah.
So, and it has to do with Japan again, same thing.
I saw that.
So the way that the Chupacabra was assumed to have kind of come in and started taking things from them, we think of a vampire in America as a guy that sits in a castle, has all the money in the world, and he feeds because he has to stay alive, right?
Right.
Almost like an anti-hero, right? They don't look at vampires that way. They look at vampires as monsters that will literally murder you and take everything you own.
Who? Puerto Ricans?
Just the Caribbean, Latin America, and other parts of the Latin, tinged world, right? And this is very similar to how we in America take the idea of nuclear power and radiation and how Japan takes the idea of nuclear power and radiation. Nuclear power is fairly new. It's only been around for less than 100 years, right? So if you look at how Japan looks at radiation, it makes things gigantic and makes them destructive and they come out of fucking nowhere, right? But if you look at it in America, anytime there's radiation involved or something, whether the person is good or bad, it always makes them stronger and better at whatever they were doing. Always.
Right.
Spider-Man, the Hulk, any villain that's ever touched anything radioactive, it's always our view of radiation is it's going to make you powerful because it literally made us powerful. Whereas the Japanese idea of radiation is it's going to kill us and destroy us because that's literally what happened. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing. It's just a different outlook of the same thing.
Right.
I felt like that was probably the best example I could think of to,
because of the way it affected their culture.
Exactly. Culturally,
respectively,
they're a lot more afraid of that happening than we are because realistically, who's coming to New York and taking everything we own? Other than New York.
Well, Thanos.
Good. Well, Thanos.
Did you not see any of the Marvel movies?
I did not.
That's a callback from episode 1.
Dude, does it feel like I have time for Marvel movies? I just went into the brief history of vampires.
There's gonna be at the end of our careers. There's gonna be a count of all the Marvel references.
Thanos has come up twice so far. But stated by what the hell is his name? Benjamin. Sorry, my cat's name. Stated by Benjamin Radford himself. And now Benjamin Radford is the man that wrote Tracking the Chupacabra, which is like 80% of this research is done through him. Benjamin Radford is just a researcher in general. He's not specifically into this type of stuff, but that book is the most objective thing that I think I've ever read when it comes to something like this. Like, he picked apart everything and justified everything that needed to be justified. Like, honestly, great book. There are so many things I didn't take from there because a lot of it is his own opinion and it's his own experience. He actually went out and tried to find it. So, like, if you're interested in that, I would say go pick up that book because there's a lot that I'm not going to mention that was in the book.
Shout out Benji.
Shout out Benji, bro. But just to say, Benjamin Radford stated himself, and I think that this is a very important quote, Urban legends do not suck the blood out of thousands of goats, cattle, and chicken. Symbols of cultural resistance to American imperialism and exploitation are not seen by eyewitnesses with spikes running down their spines as they bound over treetops.
Right.
And I think that that's a really good idea. Like, having all of this knowledge gives us an idea of where the idea of the Chupacabra came from, but there still is something happening. We still got to figure what that is.
When you said, now combine that with the distrust in governments and all the folklore and religious beliefs, right? When you said all that, my brain went, oh, this is their way to just
justify something terrible happening.
Right. Yeah. I need a scapegoat. I need something. All these people
wouldn't even
are
say
coming
scapegoat.
in.
I would say escape Chupacabra. That's what I would say.
Like, there's something, there's this shit that's ruining our lives.
Exactly.
I agree with that. Urban legends do not suck the blood out of thousands of goats, cattle.
Yeah, like that's like it's, and I will say he's very funny when he writes.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that he says is very tongue in cheek, and he calls out authors of other books by first and last name.
Let's go.
And he airs them out. And in the beginning of the book, he's literally like, he writes a whole thing like, I'm not trying to like dunk on these people, but like, I'm a dunk on these people because they did no research and they just made shit up. And he did that, I will say. And we're going to get to one of those people in a second.
You had to fucking read those books?
Bro, I didn't read all of those. Okay. I read the Radford book, and then I did a ton of just extra research on the side. So this story is very all over the place, and there are things that happened all at the same time. There are things that happened over the span of, this is basically from 1995 until 2007. Like, that's basically the major events happening. And there were certain things that happened in those times that would, when you hear why it's kind of stopped in 2007, you understand. But this story is all over the place, and writing it into one cohesive narrative was pretty difficult. But if there's anything you're confused about, just stop me, because it can get very confusing at times. You may have to listen to this multiple once. That's all I'm saying. And make sure 5 stars. So now we are going to get to the Chupacabra in El Vocero.
Or is it Vocero?
Vocero. I think it's Vocero.
It's Vocero?
I think it's Vocero. I don't know what that means, but...
It means volcano.
Okay.
How do you not know that?
All right. Gotcha. I know, it sounded like Bandit. What do you want me to tell you? So, I mean, to be fair, a bandit is an idiot and an asshole. Just saying.
Stop, he robbed me. Get that pendejo.
That asshole. Though history plays a huge role in the creation of the creature, the spread of it is very modern. So, the media played a pivotal role in the spread of the mystery and intrigue associated with the Chupacabra. They are wholeheartedly responsible for it. Okay?
Right.
Like most legends, it started as a rumor from person to person and then was picked up by a local reporter. This reporter goes by the name of Ruben Dario Rodriguez. And at the time, he wrote for El Vocero, the Puerto Rican tabloid akin to the National Enquirer. So this being similar to the National Enquirer is, obviously pretty important. Anybody that's not aware, anybody that's listening that's not in the U.S., the National Enquirer is basically like, how would you explain it? Like tabloid news, but just...
I don't fucking read? I don't know.
No, but the National Enquirer is so famous. It's like basically, well, I guess this is a good... I'll explain it to you. It's basically like a magazine full of like thinly veiled rumors that are just true enough to not get them in trouble, but they just exaggerate everything and write
like
allegedly.
Who's dating who in Hollywood?
No, it's more like they'll take a really bad picture of like Dolly Parton where she looks like sick, and then they'll put like Dolly Parton allegedly has 8 days to live, and like they'll sell that paper. They've been sued a million times. They're just like, they're known for sensational stories, right?
Got you.
And that's the important part to take out. Is this Dolly Parton, I'm sure, isn't getting put up in El Vocero, but the sensationalization is what I'm really trying to emphasize here. And Ruben Dario Rodriguez was also responsible for almost half of the Chupacabra stories published in El Vocero, which is what spread the Puerto Rican version of the Chupacabra around
He's
the island. John Keel.
He's the John Keel of Chupacabras. I love that you knew what I was going to say.
Yes and no, right? So where John Keel took a very quote-unquote objective approach, he did not. And we will see that in a second with a story that I have. Because Ruben Rodriguez, double R, he was just real, like, he just lied. He just lied a lot, right? And I'll give you here we go. At this point of the story, it becomes heavily sensationalized, as we were saying, and such as the story of Arales Gonzalez. You ready for this?
Yep.
According to witnesses, this 5-year-old was kidnapped, not captured, kidnapped by the Chupacabra. And I say that because captured, you could get captured by a shark. No, it was kidnapped, like tied behind back, kidnapped, right?
This is the bat Chupacabra with hands.
Yeah, this is the Chupacabra, yeah. Kidnapped by it, and then tattooed the characters Oja 10 Oja, which is OJO-10-OJO.
You said Oja.
Ojo, sorry.
Ojo.
Which means I. I asked Santi today at work. It means I.
Bro, everyone knows I.
I did not. I don't.
Everyone knows Bendejo.
I don't.
Everyone
I took
knows
Italian in high school. What do you want? So it basically says like I-10-I, which like I is in like your orbital, like your eye, not your fucking like I.
I apologize to our Spanish listeners.
Exactly, that's a good example.
They know what an ojo is.
I know, but there's so many other people that might not. So she got tattooed with that, and then apparently the Chupacabra dropped the child off and escaped without anyone seeing it. And the best part is the father claims the child had become a genius because of the encounter with the Chupacabra. So it's either the Chupacabra or the tattoo that caused the child to become a genius. And according to the article that was written by Ruby and Dario Rodriguez, the police confirmed that the child was a genius. All caps.
Wait.
How?
Wait. What makes them the fucking authority on?
Thank you. That's what. How? What did they do? Did they ask what did they ask the child? What is 2 + 2? 4. This kid is a genius now. It's a 5-year-old. What the fuck?
He aced like an SAT test.
Yeah, they called Mensa out. They came and set up a little office, and they had her come in once a week, and they tested her IQ, and they saw a gradual spike. No, the cop was just like, do you feel smart now? And the girl was like, and then that's it now. The girl is a genius now, right?
This cop just want to be done with this report.
It wasn't the cop. The cop probably never existed. This girl probably never existed. Okay, right? Yeah. And that's the important part, is that he fabricated so much and put forward so much of what we know as the legend and the myth that we can't differentiate what is false and what's not without looking at everything he wrote and totally discounting it from the beginning.
This guy has the gall to call out other authors by first and last name, and he's just making shit up like this.
No. So Benjamin Radford, the guy that wrote this book, is the one that's calling him out. Ruben Dario Rodriguez is one of the journalists that he's calling out. Fuck Ruben, man. Yo, he scared the fuck out of certain people. To be totally clear, most Puerto Ricans saw this mostly as entertainment, with only a few actually being afraid of the monster. And that is, like, I just want to be mostly clear about that. Most saw it as, like, a fun local legend to scare their friends. Some wrote songs about the Chupacabra. And people in the cities, like, barely thought anything of it. There was a legitimate panic, though, with mobs being formed to hunt the creature in more rural parts of the island. And there were, like politicians coming out to like assemble mobs in like small like farming towns, right? Jesus. So like the farmers were being extra cautious and they were very afraid, where people like it would basically be like if what's the best way to put this, right?
Well, farmers had every right to be annoyed.
So here's the thing,
their fucking
right?
Animals are getting slaughtered.
Thank you. I didn't even think to bring that up. Yes. So they are going through like a 6-month-ish time where animals are being killed more than normal, right? And that is important because that shows that they're afraid of the Chupacabra, but it's happening whether they're afraid of the Chupacabra or not. So the Chupacabra is an answer to what's happening. And then it started to spread. It was reported in Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Nicaragua.
That's the one you picked? That's the hill you die on? Brazil, Mexico, Chile. That's the one you decide. Let me turn it up. Let me turn it up a little bit.
It's just the way.
Why? What is it about Chile, bro?
I just didn't want to say Chile. I just felt like it was wrong to say Chile. I don't know why.
Brazil, Mexico, and Chile.
Oh my god. And Chile. So it basically went to all those places, Nicaragua and a bunch of other places. Something like 12 countries reported the chupacabra sightings by 2005. Just to show you the spread. So this is like
countries, Andrew.
Argentina.
Argentina.
Yeah, California. You know,
all as countries in California.
So about 12 countries. Okay, I just want to say there's a storm going on outside.
We don't even need thunder
effects. I know, there's a storm happening outside.
Do you realize that this is God?
Oh, this is so
We don't
funny.
even need thunder effects.
Literally, it was beautiful all week, and they're like, oh, you're recording a podcast? Okay. And just a reminder, very few people had actually seen the beast. Most people heard a commotion, came outside, and found their livestock dead. I know I already said that, but I would just want to make that like totally clear. These reports are mostly made up of what people thought to be a chupacabra attack. So anytime someone would come out in any of these countries and say, oh, there was a chupacabra, it is just because...
It's just go with it, bro.
Just because A, B, and C happened, and they heard, oh, well, this was happening, a country away up the block.
Right.
This is happening to us,
They
too.
suck my gold.
They suck my gold! And you could see I named the section, the bodies hit the floor. So, as of now, is there anything that you're confused about?
No.
No.
I'm confused of why you fucking said Chile.
Chile. So now we have the history, and then we have the origin of the actual monster, right? So now we are going to get to another very important part of the chupacabra mythos, which are the carcasses that people had found, allegedly, right? So now, if you like the chupacabra in any way, and you have looked into it, or even if you were a kid during like the old Monster Quest episodes, like I was, which is how I found out about the chupacabra, the chupacabra...
This is great.
It's kind of beautiful. The chupacabra carcasses are what made it more famous than anything else, right? And now at this point, the carcasses are kind of what turned the image from that alien thing into a dog.
Wait, the carcass of the chupacabra?
Of a supposed chupacabra, yes.
Oh.
So the reason that this is important is because I believe... I couldn't find a specific point where the idea turned that it was a dog and not this like humanoid creature thing.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that this is where it started because once they started finding things that were supposedly a chupacabra, or people started saying that this is happening to my animals, and they're describing it like in Mexico, for example, they always described it as basically like a wild dog, which in Mexico they have Mexican wild dogs. Those are like a breed of wild dog.
Right.
So it's very possible that it could have just been a wild dog, but people would blame a chupacabra for it. Correct
me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the chupacabra in Mexican lore like something you just kind of told little kids so they behave?
I've heard that. I don't know if that's 100% the case, but that is things for like. There are other examples of that,
right.
Like popular, like folklore monsters and shit, and they just told kids that to, more or less teach them before they could just teach them.
I'm pretty sure, like Trish was telling me, there's some sort of chupacabra-like thing in like Filipino culture that
that's super.
They tell little kids they're like, this thing's gonna fucking get you.
I would love to find out what that is.
Yeah.
That's really fantastic, honestly. I'm going to text Trish tonight on that. I'm going to be like, hey, I know you're in California. I hope everything's going great. What is that monster from when you were a kid in Filipino culture? That would kill you in your sleep. So now, this is where things really start to get fun, because we start to see the differences between the creatures regionally. Okay? And this is where, like I said, we will start to see it morph from the Puerto Rican chupacabra, which doesn't really leave Puerto Rico. Like, the idea of a chupacabra and a vampiric thing coming and killing your livestock and taking your income and all that stuff, that is real, and people believed in that. But the image that they put towards that idea was different depending on where you were. Because, again, it's very culturally relevant,
Right.
The reason that in Puerto Rico they thought it was an experiment done in a U.S. lab is because in Puerto Rico they had labs. We owned Puerto Rico.
Wreck shit, yeah.
And we would put labs in the jungles, and then we would study what is the type of monkey. We would study a very specific type of monkey. It's like a maker monkey or something like that. And when they shut down when they shut down the lab, they just let the monkeys loose, which caused a monkey problem on the island, right? So, like, it's not totally far-fetched for them to say, oh, the U.S. was involved. It's like a fucking, more or less like a monkey that was experimented on and made into like an alien creature. That's what they believed, right?
Right.
Whereas in a place like Chile...
Chile.
Oh my god, I said it and God was like, no, Chile.
Instead.
So in a place
right
like Chile or Argentina or Brazil, they might suspect that the U.S. was trying to cover it up or something, but they're going to go with what's logical for that country, which was a wild canine of some type. So a coyote, a dog, a fox, anything like that is all game for Chupacabra, right? Because they all kind of kill in a very similar way. We'll get to that in a bit. This is a great story that I picked out about a Chupacabra carcass being found. Late one August night in Malpasio, Nicaragua, year 2000, farmer Jorge Talavera waited in the darkness with anticipation. For the last 15 days, he and his neighbors had been at war with an unknown entity killing their livestock. Tired of it, they vowed tonight would be the night that they would go and kill the beast, ending its reign of terror. After a few hours, an alarm is heard. It's the sound of a goat screaming for help. Help! Help! That's the goat. Help! Is that good? I've been waiting all week to say that to you. Can I just tell you?
I was not expecting that at all.
I practiced it in my house by myself. Jorge's ready, but what he sees is unlike anything he's ever seen before. He runs into the field to find 3 creatures standing in front of him. From a distance, he shoots, and he strikes one of the creatures, the only one having yellow hair on its tail. He would later describe that it had the skin of a bat, the spine of a crocodile, and rose-colored teeth. He knew he'd wounded one of them, but they were able to escape into the darkness and thought to be lost forever. 3 days later, a ranch hand named John Garcia notices a bunch of vultures hovering over an area in the distance. He decides to go investigate and comes across a small cave with a skeleton of something inside. Upon further inspection, he recognizes the yellow fur on the tail and is hit with a realization. Jorge Talavera had killed the world's first Chupacabra. Within the day, the story is international news. People all over the world were finally going to have an answer to the world's newest cryptid.
Sorry, this is in Puerto Rico?
This is in Puerto Rico? Oh, no, this is in Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, yeah.
Right? So now, very important, they treated it with the highest respect, and they brought the remains to the National Autonomous University of Nicaragua, and within a few days, the news finally came in. They got the news in the mail, they opened up the envelope, and the report read, "It's a dog." Said it is basically 100% a canine. It's a fucking dog.
It's a dog.
It's a dog. He shot a dog. He shot a wild dog that was killing his livestock. Which, again, is fine.
Right.
But he killed a fucking dog.
Kind of upset.
It's not a Chupacabra. I just want to make sure. So now we look back and we say, well, Jorge,
we remember.
What is the skin of a bat and the spine of a crocodile? And where are these teeth? Because we have the skeleton and the teeth are white or yellow. They are not rose-colored, like he said.
Right.
So literally none of the things he was describing other than the yellow on the tail was true. And the yellow on the tail was not as prominent as he said it was. He made it sound like it was like a neon yellow, like almost like you had like there was like 3 sports bikes. 2 of them were black and one of them was black with a yellow stripe. That's basically what he made it sound like, and that's not the case at all.
Yeah,
like Pikachu. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's okay. I know what I bomb.
Konnichiwa. Got you, man. So now I'm going to go over 5 more sightings of the Chupacabra. No, sorry, not sightings. We're going to go over 5 more examples of Chupacabra that were found dead. And we're going to just more or less examine them one by one. Right?
You got it.
Another carcass that was found was outside the outskirts of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Ooh.
Shout out Walter. A man found the dried remains of what he thought to be a wild Chupacabra. So he was in the desert, and he found something laying on a rock, and he picked it up and brought it home, and he said, this is a Chupacabra. This has to be a Chupacabra, right? What it actually turned out to be was something called a Jenny Hanover, which is a stingray from the ocean, that is dried to look like a mermaid. It's dried and posed to look like a mermaid. If you look it up, they're kind of gross, but they're also kind of sick, right? I found a bunch of them there. It's cool, right? And if you look at the picture of what this man found, he literally found a knickknack and thought that it was a chupacabra. There was even if you think it's posed.
What do you mean a knickknack?
It's
like
basically
a toy?
like, okay, so like imagine if I was walking around like the New Mexico desert, right?
Yeah.
And I found a taxidermied deer head on the floor, and I picked it up and brought it to a researcher and went, "This is a chupacabra." And the guy's like, "Bro, this is the head of a buck."
Deer, right?
What are you talking about? And I was like, no, this is a chupacabra. Like, this man still to this day believes that he found the chupacabra. He insists that this is not a stingray, which is so funny because it's not even close. Even if you look at it and it's not a stingray made into a mermaid, right?
Time out. Where are you getting stingrays in Albuquerque, New Mexico? It's a fucking desert.
It's sold in a gift shop.
Oh, this is what you mean by knickknack.
Okay, you know that. Okay, wait, hold on. You know the scene in SpongeBob when they get taken at the end of the movie and they're drying up under the lamp and they're like, oh,
yes,
and then the tear saves them. That gift shop with all the different fish things. That's where this type of thing would be found, right?
I totally understand.
Yeah,
that.
so basically someone just threw it out and he just found it. And he decided to say, "Oh, this is a chupacabra." Yeah. Instead of, it's obviously a stingray. So now we have the beast of Elmendorf, Texas, which was a chupacabra carcass that was supposedly shot and killed by Devin McAnally. What? McAnally.
Turn in your badge,
Wait, hold on.
McAnally.
It's McAnally. It's McAnally. It's McAnally. Devin McAnally. It was described as having sky blue tinted skin like that of an elephant with a white pattern on its side. It also had a very long tail, like almost the size of its entire body, and a snout with supposed fangs protruding from the front. Like if you've ever seen what are those deer? The deer that they have the closed mouth with two fangs sticking out? If you've ever seen that, or like a vampire bat, very similar.
A saber-toothed tiger.
Saber-toothed tiger, there you go.
I have to reference extinct animals.
Well, also, just to be perfectly
just to understand
clear,
what you're saying.
this was also investigated, is also a dog. Possibly with mange, but it was a dog. So now we're going to go all the way up to Maine in the U.S., right? So this is I've included this one because this shows how far this went, okay? The main beast was supposedly a chupacabra carcass found by Michelle O'Donnell, which she photographed and posted online and sent to a local newspaper. It gained a lot of attention before the results were tested by the University of Maine, which concluded it was a dog. And
we just need Maury to be like, and then
so good.
Detectives determined
every single time people are like, no, it's this one. And everybody's like, nah, it's a dog, man. This one's funny because you could find the picture she posted online, and it's just a dead dog. Like, I don't know. It's just a wild dog that's dead. I don't know why she thought what she thought.
Was this Facebook?
This is Facebook time. This is like 2005, 2007. So it's like
there's no Facebook.
No, is it not?
Yeah.
I'm thinking 7th grade MySpace, I guess.
MySpace.
There are forums and people that are into this type of things. Like, do you know what Coast to Coast is?
Yeah, New York to California.
No, you fucking idiot. Coast to Coast is a radio show.
You're supposed to do yes and. That's the rule of improv.
No, yes and. Fuck you. It's a radio station, and it's very important to the cryptological research. Sorry, my pocket protector fell out. The show was called Coast to Coast, right? He had an online forum in the early 2000s. You know what it was called? You know what it was called? Post to Post, which is fucking brilliant. But places like that are where you would see these types of things being posted and these types of things being talked about, right?
Because it was an online forum.
Because it was an online forum
called
Post to Post. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you would go, like, figure post to post, So now next is the Blanco Chupacabra. The body was found out on a farm in Texas, which
means white.
Hell yeah, tell him, man.
Sorry, I was trying to fit that in.
Bro, go
and
for it.
And you kept going.
So if you combine the whole thing, what is it? It's white. Goat sucker. So the Blanco Chupacabra. The body was found on oh my God, I can't read this sentence. The body was found on a farm in Texas and then brought to Jerry Ayers to be examined and taxidermied. So now Jerry Ayers is a good guy. I like Jerry.
Good guy, Jerry.
He does not believe in the Chupacabra.
Because he's not a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and he does not believe this to be a chupacabra. He just doesn't think that it's necessarily the species of dog or coyotes that you would find in the area, but he says, just because I'm not familiar with it does not mean it's a chupacabra.
Right.
He believes it's a cross between a dog and a coyote, but doesn't believe that it's the chupacabra, as we said. Also, the creature was said to have been poisoned because it was of something harassing chickens. So there was no bloodless animals left behind. There was no strange cries. There's nothing that points to a chupacabra other than the carcass. And the actual discovery of the carcass happened 3 days after the initial attack at the chickens, where no chickens died. So the only this is just to feed off the story. And when one of these guys, I want to say it's Devin McAnally, sorry, the Beast of Elden. It's another Texas story.
Beast of Elden Ring.
Which is the one that we spoke about before. I'm pretty sure that he, after everything was said, he was basically like, I hope I can use this money to do A, B, and C. So he just wanted the attention and all that. So like a lot of these stories are just to take advantage of the chupacabra craze, right?
Right.
And then the most famous of them, and if you watched the show Monster Quest as a kid on the Discovery Channel, you know this one. It is the Cuero Chupacabra. This specific carcass gained notoriety for being on the show Monster Quest. Found by Phyllis Canyon, the story hit all the points. Livestock was sucked of blood, a strange dog-like beast, and a farmer trying to protect her land. After a media circus, the results were in. They had an entire event on the station, and on Halloween night 2007, a San Antonio news station revealed on live TV that the results came back. It's a coyote.
Again, I was trying to sneak one in.
I'm sorry, but they had her on, and they made her read the results.
Okay.
The woman that found it, Phyllis, was standing next to them as they read the results, and they made her to read it with them.
That's ridiculous. So she's questioning. She's the one that's like, this shit's a fucking chupacabra.
She knew it wasn't a chupacabra.
And she's like, I'm willing to go on live TV.
100%, yeah.
In front of all these people.
But she became the chupacabra woman, the chupacabra lady. That's what she's known as in her community.
Right.
And she still to this day says that the body was switched. The body that they experimented on wasn't the body that was there originally. The same thing with basically everyone that found the body says that the body was switched in the university and it's being covered up by the government. Why?
Obviously.
Well, why? Why? Let's come up with an answer.
Why would they hide anything?
That's not how that works.
Mass hysteria.
Is this a national security problem?
Mass hysteria.
It's not mass hysteria. It's 3 people in Texas. There's no... There are some times that I could be like, yeah, 100% they're covering up UFOs. Yeah. We got it. This is not one of those cases. Yeah, why would they cover this up?
Injured gold.
We find new... Injured gold. Fuck yeah. High five. Woody Darrenberger. Every year they find new species of animals. Every single year. Without discrimination. So why would they just say, we can't talk about this one? It makes no sense. And you can't even say it's because it's the experimental thing to come out of the jungles of Puerto Rico because this is...
I was just going to say that.
You can't. You know why you can't? Because this is a fucking dog. It's not even the same thing.
And it's in San Antonio, Texas.
It falls apart. It just falls apart as you go.
Because they're trying to cover up the lab leak.
They're trying to cover up the lab leak. Okay. So now it's time to bring it all together.
Bring it downtown.
Now we have a clear idea of a few things. First... Tell him. First.
Bro.
First, the creature was more or less discovered by Madelyne Tolentino in 1995. The original description was then spread and bastardized all over the world until the modern idea of the chupacabra is unrecognizable from the original thing. There is not a single consistent description between case to case. There's always things different to a massive extent, as we've seen.
No shit. We got yellowtail. Blue
yellowtail
eyes,
dogs
spiked spine,
to standing up with feathery spikes on its back.
And it's also a tattoo artist.
And it's also a tattoo artist, and it speaks Spanish and understands when it's being called an asshole.
It's also got a fucking passport.
It also could swim really well. Second, so that's the first thing. Second, any attempt to explain the origin of the Second, any attempt to explain the origin of the creature falls completely flat without a single shred of actual evidence. There is nothing but conspiracy and false narratives. End of story. There is no idea of anything of where this thing would come from other than, I think, etc. You know?
Yeah.
Third, any attempt to recover a chupacabra body has led almost unanimously to dogs or coyotes. Every single example I could find of a carcass being recovered has either been innocent ignorance or someone obviously seeking attention.
Right.
So there are some people that didn't know the Puerto Rican version of the story, and they always thought of it as a dog-like creature. So they shoot on their property that's going after their animals, a dog with mange. It looks really fucked up. The skin looks kind of scaly because it has mange. I could totally understand how that's just someone that doesn't understand what that is, which is fair.
Right.
I wouldn't either, you
Right.
know? But there are definitely people that were just seeking attention. And these were a lot of the people that were, like the fucking stingray guy and shit like that. You obviously know that's not a chupacabra. Let's stop. So by this logic of these three things, the original sightings are the only thing that we have that is credible, since the only thing to come out of those sightings were sensationalized story and easily debunked encounters. But how credible was the first story?
Not that much.
Going backwards here a little bit, because now we are going to deep dive into the first story, and I'm going to shred this story apart. You ready?
Let's hope you were paying attention, ladies and gentlemen.
You ready? So as we said at the beginning of the episode, Madelyne Tolentino was the first to see the creature, giving us the most complete description of the chupacabra to date. Let's look at the full description.
Dun dun.
Dum dum. A bipedal, 4-ish foot creature standing in an attack pose like a TV monster, which are her words, not mine, and this will become important. Wraparound eyes on an elongated head, long arms and legs with short hairs, about 3 digits each, 3 to 5 depending on the day that you asked her, with a row of spines or feathers, or both, on its back which moved back and forth while it hissed. She also claimed that there was a mysterious slime left behind, but no slime was found by anyone, is generally taken as false, and I'm 95% sure she even said she lied about the slime. Okay? And also there was the faint smell of sulfur or whatever she said. It's always sulfur, but there was just a shitty smell in the air, right?
Right.
Now, this description shares a striking resemblance to something, according to Ben Radford, and I have to be honest with you, I fucking 100% agree with this man. If you compare the description of the chupacabra with the appearance of Syl from the 1995 movie Species, the resemblance is undeniable.
Uncanny.
The actions of the beast are extremely similar. They are both vampiric. The attack posture is exactly the same. The slime that's supposedly left behind is the same. The odor, the fact that it could have been a humanoid creature, the skin, everything.
The tattoo machine.
Everything. It being afraid of Spanish pendejos. Like, the entire thing is so obviously of that movie.
The day you called me pendejo.
No. And there is more to that if that isn't enough for you. The movie Species is about a genetically mutated creature which escapes which escapes a lab in Puerto Rico and goes on a killing spree. The movie was released a year before and was a giant hit in Puerto Rico because it takes place on the island of Puerto Rico. They don't get a lot of representation in American movies.
Right, yeah.
I feel like if you put this all in perspective, together, it puts it in perspective. This
that
is
makes
very
sense.
Obviously a woman that saw something she didn't know, and I'm going to say unintentionally, just said this is what it was because maybe it freaked her out, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it did, but I feel like this is concrete proof that this first sighting, the foundation of the entire thing is false. And when you get that, when you don't have a foundation, you know what happens when you build a house on mud?
You got dirty feet.
You fucking, it sinks. It sinks, it breaks, and it falls apart. And that's what happened to this story. This story
You're right.
is great. But I have one last thing to put in before we go. This is going to be the stake in the heart of the vampire.
Oh, I like how you did. I like what you did there. You brought it back.
If this wasn't all good enough for you, I will also provide a real answer to the mutilation cases.
That's what I've been fucking waiting for. The whole
This
time.
is the answer.
The whole time.
Now, I will say, and I didn't write this down because I want to word it specifically. In Puerto Rico specifically, at the time, there were more God damn. There are more mutilation cases happening in that time period, in that 6 months. That is 100% true. And by mutilation, I just mean livestock being killed, right? But Reese's monkeys. Reese's monkeys. That's the name of the monkey, not maker. Reese's. Thank you. Just remembered. But...
Just for you.
Just for me. Sorry.
Just for you. No one else. Everyone's like, what the fuck? This guy's having an aneurysm.
I'm sorry. It's been a really long week. At the time, that's the only place where more livestock were being killed than anywhere else, right? Everywhere else that the Chupacabra was supposedly in never saw a spike in any killings of livestock ever. So there were never a spike in anywhere. So Puerto Rico is the only place that actually had an actual problem that they were trying to give an answer to. Everyone else was just more or less just freaked out or making it up for attention, right?
Right.
And what I believe, again, is the spike in the fucking vampire's hut. Wild dogs hunt livestock for sport 99% of the time, and they do not eat all of the animals, if any, that they kill.
How the fuck do you know that?
I did.
Would you ask them?
No, I read a scientific, literally like a scientific behavior of wild dogs, right?
I wanted to show Joe over here how it's done.
Go fuck yourself, Tuesday. No, but this is all from like like scientists.
You won't call me a pendejo ever again.
Yeah, he was like, and then wild dogs hunt for livestock as sport. Who's a pendejo now? But wild dogs hunt livestock for sport most of the time. They will go in, they will kill a bunch, take one body, and then go. And it's more of, when I say for sport, that probably is taken the wrong way.
He would never do that.
He would never do that. He definitely would do that if you put him in the right circumstance. When I say for sport, what I mean by killing for sport is not like, oh, let's go fucking, you get 7, I get 6. Oh, I won, Chad. It's more like... It's more like they'll hunt an entire pack of one animal for like defense reasons, so that when they're eating and taking one of them away, the other ones don't go and attack them, right? So they will kill everything there and take what they need and leave the rest, right? So they very rarely will eat everything that they kill, if even anything. Sometimes they'll kill a bunch and just get tired and walk away. That is a very common behavior of wild dogs that I found while doing research. It's startling, really.
Well, you learned something.
Yeah. They also do not tear up animals when they kill them. Everyone has this idea of a wolf coming in and just ripping a thing apart, disemboweling it. It does not happen that way.
No, they just break its neck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What they will do is they will aim for the neck and usually bite down, breaking the animal's trachea, leaving 2 wound punctures, but not necessarily in a vein. So there is no blood. What that does is it will break the trachea and the animal basically suffocates to death. Brain hemorrhage, whatever happens, it suffocates, and that animal has no blood other than a little bit on its neck, maybe, right?
See where I'm going with this?
So, on top of all that, once the animal is dead, it does not take very long, if only sometimes a few hours, depending on the conditions, for the blood to pool at the bottom of the animal and then congeal. And what this does is, if you lift up the animal and you start moving it around, no blood will come out, so it will appear to be bloodless. This is like a very, very common thing that is very easily debunked. So now we have now the history of where this could have came from, the origin that we know is false. Everyone else after that we know was lying because the origin was false. And now we have an example for an explanation of what was happening for the killings.
And now we know where vampires come from. Where? It's from doggies.
From my heart.
It's from little puppies.
Little puppy. I love you. I don't know what dog that is. But if you combine all this together, we know so far... and the answer is, what? Combine this with everything we know so far, and the answer is clear. The beast does not exist and never did. And that concludes the story of the Chupacabra.
Gotcha. Where's the fucking thunder now?
Yeah, I know, really.
Seriously.
Thanks, God. Fuck. But yeah, this story, man, this took such a long time to put together, but honestly, it was extremely rewarding because as someone who's been a fan of this forever, every part of this I didn't know. It was just, all you know is people found carcasses, some of them were proved wrong, and it just doesn't happen anymore. Now you have a reason why it doesn't happen anymore. Once the connection with Syl was made from Species, look up a picture of Syl when you get a chance from the movie Species, and then look up a picture of what the Puerto Rican Chupacabra looked like, and they are identical, other than it being a little bit more cartoony because someone drew it.
Right.
It's It's insane. I'm going with that 110%. I think that's what happened. Yeah. And also, it's just kind of like an alien archetype in a way. And it was 1995, so people have been drawing aliens with big eyes for years. You know,
I feel like the 90s. I feel like the 90s was a good
The 90s was a good time for things like that. Yeah, there was a big interest in UFOs because there was the Phoenix Lights happened in the 90s,
and it was think about it, it's the last era before mass information.
That's a fair point,
right?
Also.
So we're all just
rumor and stuff like that. And also, it was also the beginning of that too, so people were able to talk more about it.
They're right.
So the internet, exactly. Forums,
post.
Killed post to post, bro. Dope shit. Gotta tell you, 10 out of 10.
Chat rooms.
I love Art Bell. Okay, so that
we're really dating ourselves here.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I didn't listen to Coast when it was on radio. It's still on. What is the name of the guy now? Art Bell, and then who is it?
R.I.P. Artie.
Oh, man, I can't think of it. But yeah, so this is the story of the Chupacabra. As much as I have just totally ripped this apart in my head, and I feel like I did a pretty decent job of disproving this.
Yeah, no.
I still love it. I still just love the idea of it. I'm glad that it's not real. I don't want these people to lose their incomes, obviously. But it is kind of like a little bit of a weird magic to think that there's things out there that we don't know about, and they could be dangerous.
Speaking of magic,
Ravenous Chupacabra.
I just love that the ability of the Ravenous Chupacabra is that it comes...
I can read it to you.
It comes in...
When Ravenous Chupacabra enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. Opening Oras.
No, that's the flavor text. Don't worry about that.
I'm gonna sprinkle on some flavor. Opening Araska unleashed more horrors than just the immortal sun.
Yeah, I just love that they took the fucking lore and put it into the ability of the card.
The Chupacabra, to most people, is just as famous as Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. The Chupacabra is huge in Latin countries. It is the Latin countries Mexico. Oh my god. Latin countries Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yeah.
It is. Don't get me wrong, Bigfoot's also Latin countries Bigfoot, but you know what I'm saying. It is huge, if not the biggest from that time.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm really happy we got to cover it. And I'm glad I don't have to fucking think about it anymore because all week I've been just thinking about the Chupacabra. So last night I was in bed and I'm pretty sure I heard something go in my house and I shit my pants a little bit.
Do the goat.
Help! Help! Help!
Did you have dreams of the Chupacabra?
No, I don't dream. I smoke a lot of weed. I don't dream. I haven't had a dream in 10 years. I've destroyed my brain for dreams. I'm sorry. But yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I learned so much.
Did you?
About the Chupacabra.
I know you're serious, but for some reason I feel like you're fucking with me.
I'm really not.
Yeah, I'm really proud of this and how this came out, and I feel like this is the first one that I really dove deeper than normal.
I didn't think I'd care so much about the Chupacabra.
I was a little worried that it being so fake, so obviously fake, was going to be it's not that interesting. But I feel like that made it more interesting.
But that's the whole point of the show, is you get to dive into people's minds at the time, and that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, well put. Yeah, and also it also kind of gives you backstory for. There is a card that I just saw this, and it has the Chupacabra as a top. So that's the racist thing. It also gives a lot of context to things that we may cover in the future. So
True.
In the future, if we cover something from this area of the world again, and it is also vampiric, I don't have to go over this because we have that base knowledge.
That's right.
See what I'm saying? So this is I think this is a really important episode for us.
Yeah, because our diehard fans are gonna reference this shit.
I would hope so.
Forever.
Barbara, that's you.
Shout out Barbara.
Yeah, shout out Barbara. Honestly, love you. Huge support. She is our biggest fan by far, and I absolutely love you for it. I gotta be honest with you, it is really, it warms my heart. So yeah.
All right.
But that's it.
We learned a lot, folks.
That's it. Enough.
We'll see you next time.
Done. Finito, as the Chief Keef would say. Thank you. I got you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.